built a reputation for solving big criminal cases. In fact, he arrested the most notorious kidnappers and dismantled criminal gangs in different parts of the country. And for all of these, he received a host of medals and commendation, including the Presidential Medal of Courage. Till date, he remains the only police officer to be honored by federal lawmakers. But like a flip of a switch, not even Kyari saw his light from grace coming. The highly decorated officer has fallen out of favor with the Nigerian society. For critics of the Nigerian police force, Abba Kyari's case is by no means a unique one. History seems to be repeating itself, and a parallel is being drawn between the travails of Kyari and that of DSP George Iyamu. And here's why. DSP George Iyamu was known as a tough cop who terrorized underworld figures, but in 1986, he was heavily indicted by a notorious criminal, Lawrence Anini. Anini made scandalous revelations before his death about how he was aided by some police officers, including DSP George Iyamu, who provided guns and ammunition, intel and logistical support for him and his gang, making it difficult for them to be apprehended during his reign of terror. Although Iyamu denied the allegations, he and Lawrence Anini were sentenced to death by firing squad on March 29, 1987. They were both killed in front of happy Nigerians that came to witness the end of the era of an invincible terror called Lawrence Anini. 36 years after, a Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, is currently in the custody of the country's anti-narcotics agency, the NDLEA, facing charges of conspiracy and drug trafficking. On February 14, 2022, the NDLEA declared Kyari wanted, and he was handed over by the police on the same day. But before this, in July last year, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Central District of California, issued an arrest warrant against Kyari and 5 others for allegedly helping convicted fraudster Hush Puppy to launder his money in a $1 million scam in the U.S. Back home in Nigeria, Kyari was suspended. The Police Inspector General ordered an investigation. The outcome of that investigation was not made public. However, on February 7th of the same year, the Attorney General of the Federation said a prima facie case has been established against Kyari. And days later, the Police Service Commission ordered a second probe into the allegations. The outcomes are still being awaited, even as there are reports that the government may be agreeable to extraditing Kyari to the US. And like Iyamu before him, Abba Kyari also has a knack for displaying questionable, flamboyant lifestyles, in spite of being police officers who take home some of the poorest wages in the country and beyond. Professor Kemi Rotimi, Nigeria's leading scholar on policing and the Nigeria Police, says Kyari's display of wealth and fraternity with socialites should have been a telltale sign that he's no super cop.
Before this time, any close observer of the Abba Kyari phenomenon will have guessed, like some of us did, that he's likely to also be a super criminal. Look at the company he keeps. But then, because to do a good job as a police officer, one must also concede you need to penetrate the criminal world. So it's a thin line between being a super cop and being a super criminal.
Since he joined the force almost 22 years ago, Kyari rose to the rank of a Deputy Commissioner of Police. But before then, in 2018, he served as the officer in charge of the disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad, otherwise known as SARS, for 5 years at the Lagos Police Command. A squad notorious for human rights abuses and brutality, which angered young Nigerians and saw them organized like never before. In a protest that drew the attention of the world, dubbed #EndSARS in 2020, Mr. Kyari denies human rights abuses of his squad. This case of an alleged corrupt super cop and his other police accomplices, as well as the parallel drawn from decades ago, again brings to the fore an age-long trust deficit between citizens and the police force. And for critics, it buttresses their argument of just how corrupt the police institution is in Africa's largest economy. But just how far does the rabbit hole go?
There's no institution that has made of angels. Even among the 12 disciples of Christ, there was a Judas. And that doesn't mean that the whole Christendom are all corrupt and betrayal of their masters and so forth. But the point is that they are like, no, human beings are imperfect. And there are some elements, even in the family you have some deviance. But that doesn't mean that every other person is a criminal. Police in this country, the police are doing very well. The point is that the society in which we are operating is a defective society.
I cannot defend the leadership of the police for still condoning or making it look like they are slapping Abba Kyari just on the wrist. No, Abba Kyari should have been left thoroughly aside and put in the cooler. I will not convicted him. There's a limit to which you can go. But if they are now talking about reduction in rank on the basis of the hush puppy matter or on the new one of the drug.
Nigerians now wait with bated breath for the conclusion of undoubtedly one of the biggest trials that affects the image of the police as an institution in recent history.